I'm the first one to be born in Slovenia. My father was born in Yugoslavia in the late 60s. And then my grandfather was born in Italy. No, it was before Second World War, it was Italy. And before that, my grandfather was born with Austro-Hungarian passport. So this is all different stories. It's not just on the paper. These are really big differences. Culturally, we have a lot of influence of Austria. Of course, Italy also today for us is like second home, being so close. You go shopping, you go to buy some things. Also for the winery, you go to Italy. We were always really half here, no, in a lot of things. For sure, it made the impact.
Fascinating people with stories to share, fabulous wines and the best local foods to accompany them, and beautiful places to discover and visit. All of this and more on Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on the Italian Wine Podcast. Join me for a new episode every Tuesday. Welcome to Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Today we travel to Slovenia, to the wine land of Brda, which lies just across a national frontier that has moved repeatedly over the past decades, and just across the border from the wine zone of Collio in Friuli, Venezia Giulia. My guest this morning is Lan Kristančič of the Movia Winery, one of the leading producers in Brda, who will share his family story. Lan, it was a real pleasure visiting you last month, seeing your vineyards, visiting your cellar, meeting your family, your wife Nina, and also your father Aleš. My friend Anna had told me about your wines, how she likes them and respects what you're doing. So for me, it was a great opportunity to visit. I hadn't actually been to Brda before. So thank you for being with us this morning. How are you today? And is it a beautiful day?
Thank you, Mark. It was also a big pleasure for me. Today is a great sunny day. We just planted a new vineyard, replanted actually, and new life, new chapter. So great energy.
Okay, great. Well, I'm just imagining and picturing your vineyards because it's such a beautiful area looking out from the winery over the rolling hills. But many of our listeners will not have been to Brda, will not have even heard of it, perhaps.
Yeah.
So, could you explain where you are, what the countryside is like, what it looks like at this moment of the year when the vines are coming back to life and everything is promising of the future?
So yeah, our little region is already the name tells you that is hilly. No, Berda means hills, like Collio, no. And we are in a part where these hills get really dense, and practically you see a hill over a hill. And in this part of the year, we just finished the blossoming of cherries and apricots just finished. So like a month before was all white and the rose color in these hills because most of the vineyards, especially if they are older, they all have in between the vine also a few trees. This was the tradition. We try to keep this because it really makes not just for us beautiful, but also is more intact like it was. No.
Yeah, I think that biodiversity, that mixture of the countryside is really striking. It's not a monoculture of just vines, but
Yeah.
you're looking out, and that makes it really beautiful.
Yeah, I think the best idea is to maintain at least a little bit of flowering throughout all the season. No, that's the main idea. And the hills mostly they are all planted. We have very high density of vineyards, but still you find a lot of pieces of forest in between. I invite everyone, of course, to come.
Well, I'm sure after our conversation, our listeners will be looking forward to discovering Brda. It's quite a small wine region, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about 2,000, a little less than 2,000 hectares of vines, and not much bigger in total also. We are located, let's say we have 1 hour from Venice, Trieste, Ljubljana. We are on the western part of Slovenia. Our winery is practically 100 meters from the border with Italy. And some of our vineyards, about a third, are actually in Italy. because we were there.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, we were there before this border was formed after the Second World War, no? So our my grandfather and grandfathers they woke up with a border in front of their land dividing their vineyards, no? So
Yeah, it's
yeah.
an amazing story, and we'll talk about that a bit more. How many producers are there in Burda?
There are about, I would say, from 50 to 80 producers. Some of them really small, some of them making just a few barrels. I have a few friends that just started. That's the good vibe in Berda. You get a lot of young people starting, getting to make the first vintage, the first generation winemakers that just got the vineyards from their grandfathers that used to just do grapes, and they are starting. And that's I think that's the most precious thing. Also, for us to have this community, there is a lot of wine bars here where we gather. Maybe we drink sometimes too much, but at least we have this very important social part of our life that is, and also knowledgeable. No, we talk about work, we talk about vineyards, we try to get things done better. No.
Sure. I sense that that young energy when I was with you, Lan, and a lot of exciting things happening at Movia, but also, as you say, in the area of Burda. Now, Collio in Italy, so the same wine region, but now divided by this arbitrary frontier that you mentioned. Collio is well known, I think, amongst lovers of Italian wines,
Yes.
especially for its high quality white wines from grapes such as Ribolla Gialla and
Yes.
Friulano, grown on Ponca soil, that friable limestone rich terroir that's a result of an ancient inland sea. Berta shares this Ponca terroir and
Yes.
also similar grape varieties, doesn't it?
Yeah, this shallow sea created this very so the sediments are the marne, and you have also the arenaria, so the sandstone that is anorganic part, and marne that is organic part of the sediments. And it was really shallow sea, very salty. No, and I think this is the biggest impact also when you try the wines. Of course, we share the same terroir, we share also the same varieties mostly, and yeah, I think this is a real pleasure to see how one region, yes, it's divided by a border, but actually is very similar in a lot of things, also food and everything. No, and yeah, the Collio is known a lot more because it was on the Western world. This was not after the Second World War. This was not just a border. This was a border between East and West. We were closed in one way in this east world that didn't allow privateers to build their own story, to be a big farmer. They took a lot of land, and this was the sad story, Meanwhile, on the other side, they had all the chance to go out, and that's right. They also a little bit made the way for us, because for us, for my dad, when he first time went, I don't know, to the US, it was almost 40 years ago, is only a way to connect something from where Slovenia is. They didn't even know where Slovenia is. Was yes, we are a little bit also in Italy, in Collio. So that was the connection.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, Lon, I remember traveling into what was then Yugoslavia in, I
Yes.
guess it would have been the early 80s, and I was traveling by car, and I remember the long border, the long queue to wait
Yeah.
to cross the border. It was a hard frontier. It wasn't
Yeah.
not like today where we drove from Collio to Movia to Brda, without even being aware that there was any border at all. Lan, do you think maybe in the coming years then, because the quality of the wines of Burda are of the same stature as the quality and very high quality wines from Collio, do you think Burda could become the next undiscovered wine region that the world will sit up and take notice of?
Of course, I think we will see the rise for sure. But we need to know that Berda can never make the same role like other bigger regions of Italy or anywhere else, because we are so small. And even if there is going to be the best distribution possible is still only 1,900 hectares.
Sure.
No, so it's really, really hard to make a big name. But I think this is also the positive part about us. No, that we are really small and we don't have vineyards to do mass production. We cannot do it. Also in the Ponca, you cannot make big quantity. No, so this poor soil and small space makes us do only one thing, and that is small production and high quality. No.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Lon, I'd like to know a little bit more about your family story. I think you told me it was something like your great grandfather, your grandfather, your father, and you have all lived and been born in the same place, but you've all been born different nationalities. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yeah, I'm the first one to be born in Slovenia. My father was born in Yugoslavia, no, in the late 60s. And then my grandfather was born in Italy. No, it was before Second World War. It was Italy, and before that, my grandfather was born like with Austro-Hungarian passport. So this is all different stories. It's not just on the paper. These are really big differences culturally. We have a lot of influence of Austria, of course. Italy also today for us is like second home, being so close. You go shopping, you go to buy some things. Also for the winery, you go to Italy. We were always really half here, no, in a lot of things. And yeah, this for sure it made the impact. Of course, maybe the bad influence we don't even speak, but it was quite harsh in the time of the fascism. My grandmother told me stories that you couldn't speak Slovenian in the church, you couldn't speak Slovenian in the school. No,
Yeah,
then of
yeah,
course also in the Yugoslavia, in the communism was hard. My grandfather was one of very few farmers that could stood out of the regime and never brought grapes to the big cooperative that was pushing for big volume. No, and we were in one way the black sheep. No, and that was a big problem. Everything that you could buy, that you could get, was in Italy. So in order to get it here, if you wanted to get it here legally, or you couldn't, or you had to pay triple price because of the customs. No, so a lot of times big things came under the hay. No,
yeah, yeah.
it was like this. It was really big border. No.
Yeah, it's a really incredible, and it, just demonstrates, those changing nationalities over four generations, how, what a confused borderland this is, and how difficult it's made life for families like you,
Yeah, it's true.
which is why this story of Movia is so interesting. That, as you say, your grandfather was working under that old system,
Yeah.
your father as well, and I had a chance to meet Aleš. He's a real dynamo, and
Yes. Yes.
I'm sure the story of Movia and its success is very much built on those decades-long efforts of your father and your grandfather, and you're now, as the next generation, able to move on in new directions yourself. So tell us a little bit about the story of Movia.
So we are a winery, not a winery. We are a farming family for 9 generations. We are here in the same house. Movia is a surname that was here, the same family, but the surname was lost due to no daughters in the family, no sons in the family. So Kristančič married the Movia daughter, and yeah, it went this way. This was always a place to make wine. You have a lot of small castles. Also under our house, Gredic Castle, Castelletto di Zegla, was made 300 years ago because landlords need to control these places. Taxes were paid in wine here for a long time. So this was always a wine region, no? Of course, also apricots, also cherries. My grandfather said that in the most difficult times, the fruit saved a lot of our life, a lot of our years. No, the most important thing was to always adapt in these regimes. No, of course. Then in the '86, we start to bottle all the wines. This was like a small revolution. My father came home from the military, and he decided that he wants to do only bottled wines. This was a big thing, also very hardly accepted in the region. And then we got free in 91. Slovenia was separated from Yugoslavia, and my father had open door to go to sell wine outside, to sell wine in Italy, Austria first, then in 93 in US first time he was trying, but it was really the beginning. Also the wine scene around the world was not so ready for Slovenia. But when you have really good wine and when you can really come to someone to explain why this border has no sense, no, then it was easier. So slowly he came out of this time. Our big luck was that our vineyards were always farmed in very not conventional way. We never used herbicide. This is one of the biggest heritage that I inherit. The vineyards that are really clean, and we were very fast. My dad decided to go to certification in the late 90s. In 2004, we have our organic certification, and he also joined Nicolas Joly Renaissance d'Appellation. No, this was at the time very important. Today, you can get knowledge about how to farm in a good way, in biodynamic, biologic way very easily. At the time, it was almost impossible, no? So we joined this group, and this helped us a lot, no? So there were some vintages, of course, that we pick a little bit less, but it was always the only way for us, no?
That's an amazing story, Lan. That first of all, the independence of Slovenia was an opening to the world and a great opportunity that your father was able to embrace and travel and take the wines of Movia to new markets. But also, it would have been a very courageous thing in those early years of a deciding to be organic, cultura biological, but also to go one step further with Nicolas Joly and biodynamic precepts, which frankly towards the end of the 90s were really thought of as quite crazy and now are accepted in a much more mainstream way because the results have been so good. There's such strong results from healthy farming, respecting the land, respecting nature,
Yeah.
respecting even the cycles of the planets and the moon. So your father really was a visionary in that respect.
Yes, yes, it's true. This was really important, no? Especially in our land, there is not a lot of organic mass, and when you are doing a monoculture, when you are doing vineyards, we cannot say we will plant something this year, something that year. It's the most significant monoculture is viticulture because you want to have 100-year-old vineyards, you want to have old vines, and this brings you to only one fact that soil will need you to help it come through this 100-year period. No, so
Yeah.
that's why I think this is the most important thing: biodiversity and giving back what you take. No, because a lot of times you could say, yeah, you take out this many tons of grapes. This will be transformed for the plant in three important elements, three macro elements. So nitrogen, phosphor, kalium, but a lot of micro elements also. No, but it's not only in this mathematical world. It's about the energy that one plant needs to grow. So giving back some 100 kilo of mineral fertilizer or giving back 1 cubic meter of cow manure compost for a year or two is completely different. The cow manure has the same maybe amount of nitrogen and elements, but it also contains the life that was transformed by a cow that had to eat 1 hectare of grass that needed 1 month to grow. In this 1 month, it needed every day sun, water, and soil. And that's the energy that you give back. This huge amount of mass and of life, no? So
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
this is the point of this circulation, no?
yeah, absolutely. And that energy you're talking about is in the vineyard, but it's also an energy you feel in the wines.
Yeah, of course. This is also a study, when you don't use mineral fertilizer, when you use life, you will have wine which is more energetic. Not only acidity, everything is different.
Yeah, sure. And yeah, I guess the story of Movia, I could tell meeting your father and also you, you're both very much farmers. You're working the land yourselves and you're not just going out and selling the wine. You're doing all of those many, many tasks yourselves. And that's fundamental to how you work.
Yeah, we would like to be only here. Of course, this wine needs someone to talk about it, to give the story. But yeah, we try to be really farmers, not winemakers and not wine sellers. Someone who commercialize the wine. We try to be farmer and then 20% winemaker. So a real point of vigneron, no? It's a word that combines, no? You have to do the grape and that will be your quality, not what you do in the cellar.
Sure. Now, staying with the vineyards, then, you've got, is it 26 hectares?
Yes, 26 hectares.
And that's a third Ribula, which would be Ribola Gialla.
Yes,
A third Merlot?
a third Merlot, yeah. And then we have third variety is Chardonnay together with Friulano, so we call it Sauvignon Vert. The name Tokai is of course between us. I always say Tokai. We always speak about Tokai, but you know the story of the name that we cannot use. So we found the next way, second way to.
Lan, was the name Tokaj used in Slovenia as well as in Friuli then?
Yes, yes. We had.
Okay,
I can find some labels. Furlanski Tokai,
okay, okay,
but not anymore. So Sauvignon Vert is the botanical name of this variety that shows you that this is actually an old cousin of Sauvignon Blanc. No.
okay. And that name is important for our listeners to remember because we don't see Sauvignon Vert on bottles very often, but I think as the wines of Brda get better known, it's something to look out for. Sauvignon Vert being Friulano.
Yes. And then we have also Malvasia. It's Malvasia istriana, one of the versions. No, it's a grape of Mediterranean. No, and we are maybe the northest place that can grow still, that is still part of the Mediterranean. No, and then we have the Pinot Noir. So that's also a variety that is here for 100 years.
Yeah, I tasted your Pinot Noir. It was beautiful.
Thank you, thank you.
In fact, Lan, let's look at some of your wines. Some of your one of the most popular, especially I understand in the Movia wine bar in the center of Ljubljana, which Anna has told me about, must be Puro, your classic method, bottle fermented sparkling wine. Tell us about Puro.
Yeah, Puro is a wine that we make that my dad first made in 1999. It's let's say a traditional method sparkling wine with the change that we don't bottle it with sugar, but grape juice. We wait for 1 year. The wine is in the cellar for 1 year. First thing, this allows you to bring home grapes that are riper. You don't need to have a lower point of the alcohol. You can easily go to 12 and a half. And then you don't add sugar because with sugar you would come to 14. You add grape juice. With grape juice, you stay the same. You stay on 12 and a half. So it allows you to make a classic traditional method in a warmer place like Berda, but still maintain low alcohol and ripeness in the grape.
What is the grape variety?
We make white from Chardonnay,
Hmm.
bigger cluster, clone that has a little more juice in it, a little more acidity also, and Pinot Noir for the rosé.
Okay.
And we practically don't disgorge the wine at home. That's the second part that is also very important. So every bottle needs to be disgorged by the last person, or the sommelier, or the drinker at home. It's not very hard, but it you need to see it first. You need to know what you are doing. You need to turn the bottle 1 day before to sediment, or just have them already upside down. But then you have chance to drink pure. That's why it's called puro, because you don't only drink clean wine, you drink wine that has zero sulfur, and still you
Okay.
can age it for 20 years. I know for a lot of people, maybe sulfur is not an issue, not also for me is not an issue, but it's just the way to show that you can do wine that is super stable and not that will not oxidize in years. We have 99 still good, still drinkable, and all of that without even a gram of sulfur. No,
Okay.
this is also one of the two wines that we do without sulfur. All the rest of the wines, of course, have. We don't have low pH. We have good mature whites. No.
Yeah. Now, it's a lot of theater as well in degorging the burro at the table. Is that right? Tell me
Yeah.
how it's done.
Yeah.
Tell me how it's done. Anna's described it.
Yeah, so practically you need the bottle to be cold, not just 10 degrees. It really needs to be close to 2 degrees. It needs to be very, very cold. In this way, you will lower the pressure in the bottle. That's why you will avoid all the videos that you can see on YouTube. If you write puro opening, a lot of people made a lot of mistakes, and yeah, that's a pity, that's a problem, but we don't want to change this just to compromise this mistake. We want to do this because it's the only way to do what we want, clean wine, no? So you take the bottle from the fridge, already bottle was upside down. We have our own purista, so the opener, and you also need a bowl of water, and then you put slowly the bottle in this opener. There is a graphite on the end of the bottle, not a cage like with
Hmm.
classic method normally. The graphite goes straight to the hole, and when you go in the water, you pull first the bottle away from the purista, and you start to turn slowly, and then you feel the cork being pushed by the pressure. The lees are already on the cork, and the lees will leave the bottle, and as soon as the bottle pops, you just lift slowly, and you'll have maybe a zero point 0.3 loss. No, you will lose less than half glass if you do it right. We also bottle the bottles a little more. We don't bottle 0.75, but 0.77, 78. And then the first part that you lose is on us, let's say.
Okay.
It's a fun thing, but I say that it's a show with a reason. No.
Yeah, understand. And I imagine that's a very big seller in the Movia bar in Ljubljana.
Yeah, it's a big seller. The first seller are, of course, all the Rebula. We make 5 different labels of Rebula, going from the young vineyards, let's say a wine that is more showing the variety, and then going up the black label, which are the old vines. We separate all the old vines when there is less than 20 years. They stay on the when the vineyard is less than 20 years old, it stays in the white label, which is the base. No, then the black label is already old vines, more structure, more about tension, more about this part that comes from ponca. No, the
Hmm.
salty and grippy mouth. No, and then the single vineyards that are also very nice. We have one bottling of Tiea vineyard that was planted in 1962. No, and those are really nice ones. When you really go so far, the vines are so old that they produce not even every cluster, not even a cluster per shoot, but sometimes even without, they lose the big cluster. They lose maybe 70% of the production. We make from 1 hectare, 3 tonneaux, and that's it. No, if it's a good year. And then you feel this concentration, this part of ponca or poka, like we say in Slovenian, that really concentrates the taste. No,
Okay, so that real essence
yeah,
of Ribula, 5 different expressions of Ribula, but one of the most interesting was one we tasted from directly from unusually shaped casket, the Lunar.
yeah.
Tell us about this interesting project.
So the barrel is really a new thing. We got the first oval horizontal barrels. You can see them if some of the listeners want to see there. We have them on our Instagram. There is one photo. It's a barrel that is in the shape of the oval barrel, but it's not usually like normally vertical, it's horizontal. It's put down. This was the idea from me and my dad to put a wine in a place where it will have huge amount of lees in contact. Because to explain, the first problem that we have is that our wines being very ripe, pH is already 3.5 sometimes. And the oxygen perception for wines like this is very high. So we need to protect them. And that's why sometimes batonnage is needed. Now we have to do some mixing, some lees steering to protect. But when you do too much of this, every time you touch the wine, every time you touch the lees, the monoproteins will be left from the lees. You will get this creamy part extracted from the lees. You will get, of course, protection, but you will also get this part that will close the connection between the wine and the terroir. It will not be a salty rebula, it will start to be a creamy one, the same like with Chardonnay or whatever. So this was the idea. Let's put the barrel downward. Let's have a lot of space in contact with the lees, and this will let us be more free about not having to touch the wine. You only top the barrel, and the upper part, which normally oxidizes, is very, very close to the down part, which is lees, which is a reduction. No, so this is the idea, to come closer with these two problems, the oxidation and reduction, because they save themselves. The opposite of oxidation is reduction. So we put them closer together, and in this way, wine will be more safe and you will need less intervention. No? And the wine that we tasted is only one of the barrels that, of course, we had to change the process. Lunar was first time made in 2004 with a lot of tryouts before also. From the end of the 90s, my dad started this long skin contact, and it's also today one of the only wines that we macerate of the whites. Before it was in a barrique, smaller barrel, but today, getting this heat, getting these very warm years where ripeness, which is very, very important for skin contact wine, this is also what I really like when somebody does a skin contact wine, that you really make the perfection of the grapes, that you really make a super ripe, super nice grapes, no? And only then you can do the skin contact. But sometimes it becomes too ripe and you lose acidity and this and that. So that's why we went with Lunar into a bigger barrel. So this oval horizontal barrel. We just do a harvest. It's normally Rebula harvested in October, sometimes like in 22 or so, second half of October. And we don't destem anymore. We started to use the stem because it's a way to do even less extraction. So it's 8 months with very, very low extraction. And like we tasted from the barrel, the wine was still white color. After 6 months of skin contact, it was still a white wine. It was not orange. It was not extracted and oxidized. It was just infusion of out of the berries that will bring you the taste. No. So we put the process is very simple. We put all the grapes that are already selected in the barrel, and then we top up with some part of the juice that we press the same day. And then the fermentation starts, and it finishes maybe next year in May. And when it finishes, we decant from the barrel, slowly press with the vertical press. We have to press because after 8 months, the berries are still whole. The wine is only in the berries. There is maybe 20% of
Wow.
juice
Yeah.
coming out. All the rest needs to be pressed. Because you have to know that this was never touched. In 8 months, there was not even one pigeage, no batonnage, no touching, only infusion. So we really have most of the wine inside the berry, no? So it really, Lunar brings you back to the wine that was maybe first time drank in the history of man. No, it was in the berry, grape fermented inside the berry, and this is the point of Lunar. But of course, it's a wine that is separated from our normal wines, our other wines, because it's not the same. It's my dad's big project to make this wine of the past, wine of the history, not just past of 100 years, but really the past of 1,000 years. No.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. It was really fascinating to taste. Lan, I just finally want to touch on one of your red wines because I was really impressed that this area dedicated to white wines, making fabulous white wines, as in Collio, also can make some great red wines. And I really enjoyed tasting the Movia Velico, the red Bordeaux blend. Tell us about this wine.
Yeah, that's maybe our most of the world, most of drinkers in Italy, US, Asia would know us for our whites. But here, maybe in Slovenia, most of the people would know, if they know one wine of us, they would know Veliko Rdeče. Veliko is the name that my dad put on the vineyards that are different, vineyards that are not only old, but really that have this special thing that will make the wine age forever. With the whites, mostly is when Ponca, our Opoka, so marn and sandstone, get touch of active calcar, which brings you this special structure and aging potential that is, I like to say, forever until the cork holds. No, and with the whites we have Merlot, which needs a little hill, not too high, because it still needs a lot of clay. Our best Merlot, I tasted also some others from our region that are only in the Marne that are amazing, but our best Merlot for our house is the one that is in clay. It needs this big fat clay. Sometimes it gets blue also, no? And it's very hard to grow in clay, but really for Merlot, I think is the key for us. And this 19 that we drank is also a nice vintage. It's a vintage that shows muscle, but not tannin, not dryness. It's very juicy. No,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
very untypical Bordeaux blend, let's say.
sure. Lan, you make a lot of wines, but I want to turn now to foods because these are all gastronomic wines. They're wines made to be enjoyed with food. Can you tell us a little bit about the cuisine of Brda or the cuisine of Slovenia and some of the classic local dishes that people will be enjoying with your wines?
Yeah, of course. I think I like to look at this wine and food very generally, very easily, like white wines of Berda, I would say, with some lighter meat, maybe fish, and some lighter pasta, not too much power. But in Berda, there is more typical food that would go with the reds. No, we have a big tradition of having the pigs at home. That having the one day in the year dedicated to the making the sausages of your own pigs. Now we don't.
Does that still happen?
Now it happens, but of course we don't have the pigs at home. There is only a few farmers in Berda that have the pigs, and we buy the pigs from them, and we make the same tradition back on. My grandfather passed away in 2013, and we stopped for a bit because this was his own thing. And I restarted this 2 years ago. Now also my brother-in-law, boyfriend of my sister Ella, Grega, he's helping me, and it's like a super nice thing, like a day where you have to say, okay, today is gonna be all day about this meat, and we are gonna finish very late. It's gonna be, it's like a holiday, no?
So the salumi we had with your wines, was that your own then?
That was our own, yeah. That was
Oh,
our own.
amazing. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we make salami. This is the maybe the main, most important part of our meat that is dried in our own cellars. My grandfather made a cellar that has a window to the ponca, and ponca
Oh,
gives you the humidity to dry, and it has to be dried on very high humidity, sometimes
okay.
85, 90
Wow.
degrees, no percentage. No, we don't use smoke here. That's also important to leave only taste of the meat. And we have the second part of the meat that goes for sausages. Sausages are then cooked in wine. We use only wine to cook sausages, and then you make this sauce that comes from the sausage is really really nice. And then the third part is the cotechino, or like we say, crodegin. This is the part where you have inside also the pig skin is
Yeah.
full of collagen, and when you cook it right, your fingers can stick so much that you cannot even put them apart.
Okay. So it's a boiling sausage, a boiling
Yeah,
sausage.
boiling
Yeah, I
sausage
love
with
that.
you
Yeah.
need to boil it for 2 hours. No, and yeah, there are a lot of good dishes with this cotechino. You cannot eat a lot of it, but it's like it's so much fat. No,
Yeah, yeah.
and but very good one.
I can imagine those foods go beautifully with your wines.
Yeah, they do. But most of the time, this, like also traditionally, my grandmother told me there was never a day that you would just eat the whole cotechino or sausage. It was just used in a small portion with polenta, with
Oh, okay.
pasta, to season the salad, to do this and that. Pig was used very slowly throughout the year, so so one family could survive with one or two pigs. No,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that was the only source of meat. And of course, in the past, prosciutto was always sold. Today, we of course enjoy prosciutto as well, but you need really a good seller. There is one of the best prosciutto my neighbor makes, clean it, and yeah, these are really the best things. Then, I would say žlikrofi is a dish in Slovenia. It's a pasta filled with potato. That's a very nice dish with many different sauces. Maybe some sweets, some potica is something that you need to try with some sweet picolit or something like that. We also do sweet wines. We personally we don't, but in the region. And then when you come to Slovenia, you need to try also other regions in the Styria, the Steyr, Lower Steiermark. There are a lot of great wines, especially the whites up there, and some Blaufränkisch. But I think when you would come here, Slovenia is so small that you should just visit everything. And like
yeah,
I said on the beginning, you have from our house 1 hour to Venice, 1 hour to Trieste, 1 hour to Ljubljana, and 1 hour you go in the Alps and you can walk in the Slovenian or Italian Alps.
yeah. Amazing, amazing position. And get down to the sea quickly too.
The sea is 25 minutes from here. No.
Yeah, amazing, amazing.
The airline, this is the place where the Alps and the sea really touch, because you have
Yeah,
17 kilometer to the sea and about 25 to the start of the Alps.
yeah, yeah,
So that's the airline, and that's really like there is the Alpe Adria joke, no, that you can ski in May on the Monte Canino, Canin mountain ski place 1 hour from here. Then you stop in Berda or Collio, you have a lunch, and you finish the day in Sistiana with a swim already, no.
yeah, yeah.
And
Incredible.
that's the thing that would explain this position, no.
Well, Lan, you've introduced our listeners and me much more to a very particular special wine region that many won't know about, Brda, and also to Slovenian culture, to the history of this area through your wines. Can our listeners visit Movia?
Of course, of course. My girlfriend, like you said, wife, we are already 7.5 years together, but still a girlfriend. Uh,
Okay.
Nina, she's taking care of our hospitality. We try to do all the tastings personally, or her, or me, or my mom, or my dad, and everyone is welcome, of course.
Great. Well, I urge our listeners to make the effort to discover a still unknown wine region producing fabulous wines with the warmest hospitality. Lan, it was great meeting you in person a couple of weeks ago, and really nice now to learn more about your family story and to have the chance to chat today. So thank you very much for being our guest today.
Thank you, Mark. It was really a big pleasure. I'm following your show, and I'm really honored to be here.
It's a real pleasure for me too. And I look forward to meeting again. I look forward to you showing me how you opened that bottle of puro.
Yeah, yeah. Next one, it will be you.
Okay. Thanks, Lan. Well, have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
We hope today's episode of Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on the Italian Wine Podcast has transported you to somewhere special. Please remember to like, share and subscribe wherever you get your pods. Likewise, you can visit us at italianwinepodcast.com. Until next time, chin chin.